Hey guys, thank you for joining. If you're watching right now, just give me one more minute. Let some people get in here. Just gonna hang out for a little bit, review some habitings. There's no shortage of habitings apparently, or coincidences. Just give me one sec, guys. Thanks.
Coming through hot with the fire, ignite the night, ignite. Coming through hot with the fire, ignite the night, ignite the night. Coming with the fire, ignite the night, ignite the night. Hot with the fire, ignite the night, ignite the night. Ignite the night, 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 ignite the ignite the night, ignite the night. Coming through hot with the fire, ignite the night, ignite the night. Coming through hot with the fire, ignite the night, ignite the night. Coming through hot with the fire, ignite the night, ignite the night. Coming through hot with the fire, ignite, 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 ignite. Hot with the fire, ignite the night, ignite, ignite. Come through hot with the fire, ignite, 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 ignite. Hot with the fire, ignite the night, ignite, ignite. Trendsetter.
Wow, that sucks. Imagine a world where that can happen. Imagine that world. That would be crazy. Just give me one sec. As a matter of fact, I'll do it like this. We're just gonna be hanging out, review some happenings. We're gonna watch a lot of clips. We're gonna catch ourselves up with some coincidences. I believe we have our second mass shooting now that features a victim from a previous mass shooting. I'm not going to say anything more than that. That's just what it is. That's just a fact. You can't change it. If you don't like it, you have to look inward for the answer to that one, because I can't help you with it, right? I don't like a lot of things that are true, right? But it doesn't, just because I don't want them to be true, doesn't mean that they weren't true. But that's the old world. Those are old world traditions. Those are old world traditions. We don't really talk about that too much. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Like I said, we're just kind of relaxing on this one. It's warm enough today. It was beautiful. It was sunny, and it's actually for the first time all winter warm enough in my room where I can actually wear these t-shirts. So shout outs Bohemian Grove Co. Go check those guys out. They're on Instagram. Go check their website out. Got a few of their shirts. They're fucking Good guys. They seem like good guys, funny guys. So what are we going to look at today? Here, I'm just going to go right into the clips because there's no sake in just beating around the bush here. Please like this video, share this video. If you are new to this channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. What do we got going on? There's been fucking so many happenings just in the past 2 weeks, it's hard to explain. We've got the Ohio derailment, which is still ongoing. Some say it's an environmental disaster. There's going to be acid raining down from the sky soon, according to some people. Then, of course, we've got the alien people, the UFO people flipping out, flipping tables, ranting through their families and friends, getting drunk, getting ready for the ultimate alien invasion. The alien threat, the final card is being played. But really what that is just a consequence of a lack of transparency, really. I don't go for the UFO, UAP stuff right now. I don't think it's that. But it's hard to determine whether something extraordinary is happening and being suppressed with these recent shootdowns, or if something extremely innocuous and just trivial is being overblown. And then, of course, we can't determine what those two, which one is which there. And those are two options. And then there's two more options per option. What's the motivation? Is this to garner some support, right? The timing of the Chinese balloon was interesting. It was right before the State of the Union, right? You know, and psyops like this happen. It's not the Great French Fry psyop post 9/11, freedom fries. That was a psyop, right? So the psychological operations happening back then was to briefly inflate, cause a brief surge of nationalism, patriotism, right? Because what that would do is garner support for a war based on faulty evidence. I'm being real gracious there, using the word faulty. You get what I'm saying? Because nationalism, patriotism is something that's dying along with the sovereign state. That's the general trend, of course. I'm not saying what's promoting it or who's behind it, if there's somebody behind it. So it's kind of out of the ordinary for them to suddenly need a wave of patriotism, because it only suits them when they need it. We need patriotism for support to invade this war. They'll do the same if we were to ever put boots on the ground in Ukraine. I mean, already look at the massive psyops that are going on to suppress some of the seedier parts of Ukraine. I mean, the New York Times is essentially saying there's no corruption over there, despite the fact they themselves have published exposés literally like 3 or 4 years ago, exposing the massive corruption that is within that particular country that we are now blindly supposed to support. We've given, what, tens of billions of dollars in all sorts of, like, military grade vehicles, heavy armored vehicles, right? I forget the names of the, I'm not a military super nerd, but I know the name of the one we gave them. Were they Bradleys? Was that it? I'm going by memory. So we've already given them about as much material support as we could, short of just simply deciding to invade them ourselves. But then again, we'd be fooling ourselves if we were to say that there's absolutely no contract killers over there, mercenary forces, corporate, you know, things like that. What were the Iraq guys called? The one that sort of blew up. Forget the company name. God, I'm just forgetting everything. That's why it's sort of a hangout stream. Like, I'm going to go to bed early, but I wanted to just cover all of this in one, because I've done some Ohio derailment cover. In the last video, I panicked and I actually left it Rockfin and BitChute only, but it was an 11-minute video about the Ohio derailment, and it covered some of the oddities, you know, like the axle being on fire 20 miles away from the actual derailment site. So what went wrong? There's meters that read that, sensors that read things like that, right? Heat gauges, right? They've even already commented on that. Now, I'm no expert, but I'd imagine if an axle, or whatever the hell it was, okay, something on the train, where the wheels, whatever you call them, is sparking. Now, you've got chemicals that is highly, I mean, look where we are, highly dangerous, controlled release. If it were to explode, they say it would have been 100 times worse, straight up environmental disaster, whatever. So you'd think that anything generating sparks, especially something that keeps you on the tracks, would be like dealt with immediately. Now, I'm no expert, like I said, okay? But it appears that, like, I don't think it takes 20 miles to slow a train down, right? So logic follows, right? That you'd have to then assume, okay, but maybe they just weren't. That's because they weren't slowing down. That's what happened. Something went wrong back there. They decided not to stop, or it wasn't bad enough to stop until it derails at that particular site in East Palestine, which may or may not be significant. I don't know. If I were to give a tip on that, just put your tinfoil hat on first. But if I were to give you a tip on things to dig on that I just haven't had the time, would be like, what are the primary commodities in that area, right? Especially like agricultural things. I'm not going to pretend to be that like that's a unique thought on my part. You know, there's plenty of talk about that, I'm sure, out there already, especially since agriculture and the concerns of the rural folk are going to be attacked and ripped to shreds in coming years. We've seen the massive acquisitions of farmland by the likes of Bill Gates, China, even like Chinese entities as well. I think there very much is a trend towards getting people out of the rural areas of the world, right? Because what is synonymous with living in a rural area? Some degree of self-sufficiency, right? You're not linked in, you're not wired into the hive mind of the big cities of your state. You don't even rely on them at all for anything. You can live whether they are there or not, right? Self-sufficient communities. These small towns, you know, they're great in a way. I'm from one. Lots of community, right? There's ups and there's positives and negatives though. There's definitely a downside to like knowing everybody to a certain degree, right? There is certain amount of privacy that anonymity gives you, like in a big city. Trust me. As an introverted dude, I've enjoyed that thoroughly. But the trend of having to flock to the cities increasingly to survive in increasing rates in order to survive, because for many years now they've been attacking farmers, and their people have been unable to continue maintaining their farms due to increasing prices in a variety of different things related to the running of a farm, whether it's like treatments or like I don't even know. I haven't dug super deep into that, to be honest, so I don't know the nuances of it. But I've studied the people that have come out, like farmers as well, that have said it just became impossible. I just didn't have enough resources anymore to be able to maintain my farm. And some people say that this is just an attempt to get people to flock to the cities. But it's not all that conspiratorial, because I covered it in a few videos, but Jacques Attali, they call him the French Henry Kissinger, right? He went on to write, I forget the name of the book, actually, I'll bring it up. This is actually going to be in the Google Drive file that I send out to you guys. I might be able to find a different source. I don't know. I just had it on Google Drive for my personal convenience, which is really all I use Drive for. Jacques Attali, what was that book called? Anyway, my point is I want to give you that link. There's a good amount of books in here already. Like, here, I'll show you. This is the video I put up the other day. I want to get this out and these documents out to you. Brief. Control F, brief. Oh yeah, okay. Here it is. A Brief History of the Future. There, that's right. That's what it's called. So this was written a while ago, right? And Jacques Attali is someone you want to listen to. He's once again one of those people that's embedded in the system that's kind of pushing this along, right? So you want to read those books. He called, essentially, the future is going to be composed of these gigantic megacities that house billions of people, right? Because being able to live in the country was no longer sustainable. They just couldn't do it. Basically, everything I said is what I just basically get from people like Attali. Zbigniew Brzezinski, Between Two Ages, he said the same thing. People are flocking to the cities. At least there's a trend for that. And then what happens there is eventually, once you're in the cities, you rely on the cities for safety, security, and just about everything. You're now, like I said, wired in. You just uplink yourself to the hive mind. Why? Well, you don't have a vehicle because you use public transportation. You live in an apartment because it's a city, and your apartment is very small. It's getting into pod-like territory, because average apartments you can afford outside the cities, you know, the pricing is just way off. So you gotta pay for what you can get. You get a smallest apartment, even if you're overpaying for it. I'm not saying there isn't affordable parts of the city, I'm sure. I just don't care enough to look. I just don't bother me with it. I don't care. I'll never live there. Good on you. If you do, that's cool. I'll come visit you or something. But so pods, that's what Atali says in A Brief History of the Future. Going to live in essentially increasingly small spaces. There is marriage rates are going to plummet because of the general misery of being cramped into multi-billion population size city centers. And because everyone is linked in, it's sort of like a circuit board from above, the static workings of inputs and outputs. That's kind of sort of what society can be reduced to in a situation like that. Then of course you stop caring about the people around you because they just annoy you all the time because there's simply fucking too many of you, and you're living your entire life in a way that is completely antithetical to the way that the human species has lived his life, his daily life, from literally the beginning. Like small tribes, small communities. Don't get me wrong, modern world is pretty nice. I like air conditioning, that's cool. Heaters, nice, nice. Comfy beds, nice, nice. Internet, nice. I like that, like that. So don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that, like, it weighs on you, right? Not everybody. It's just that in a lot of places in these gigantic cities, like, you can curl over and die, and you'll be walked over before anyone comes to help you? The person that comes over to help you speaks a different language, takes extra long for the ambulance to get there. I don't know. I'm just joking around. But it's this type of shit. So now, what if it shuts down? What if it shuts down? What are you going to do then? Where'd your train go? Can't get to work. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, I don't have power in my apartment. Uh-oh. Whoops. Like, you can't do anything. You're done because you're wired into the hive mind. You've been put on the control grid. You have no vehicle for yourself. Escape is impossible. So that's the situation you put yourself up to. So these growing cities have been predicted by the likes of Jacques Attali. It's seen within demographic population trends and movements. It's seen. Zbigniew Brzezinski, Between Two Ages, mentioned it. And guess who else, has been promoting? It's not like it's still being promoted to this day. This is why we're seeing a major push to revolutionize the cities, guys. If you haven't noticed, we're moving to make everything sustainable, which means a complete restructuring of everything you can imagine, down to the fabric, framework of society and the way you perceive it, right? Smart cities, 15-minute cities, those are the same thing. When they're building 15-minute cities, that's just a mode of function that will be served in a wider, integrated working system that will be a smart city. This is why it's important to be down in Africa right now, because so long as they don't industrialize, we can control their outputs of emissions before they even start outputting and emitting things on a more than negligible level. So why not get into Africa now and develop them with the sustainable developments we need, that we want to put all over the inner structure of the Western world. It's just harder to tear something down when it's already there. It's harder to turn New York City into a smart city. It's easier to build it from the ground up because, and this is why their ideology relies so heavily on tearing down the old world. It's because they have to. They can't create the world they want to create if they don't tear down the one they came from first. If they didn't have to do that, it would be much easier, right? So they're down in Africa. This is why they're doing that. It's because this is how they get a head start. They make sure that their carbon emissions and whatever the fuck never goes out of whack like ours do. So those control grids roll out in places like Africa to a degree. Read that book, Africa as a Laboratory. That's a crazy, like, I haven't finished it, but it's a good book that I've skimmed through in the past, and it was a while ago, but I'm reminding myself now that I have to pick that up, actually. I don't know where it went. Oh yeah, so megacities, right? The population of the world will no longer live in rural communities. What's going to happen is these megacities will dot the planet Earth, right? You could probably guess who else is pushing it. It's not that hard. I bet you can guess. Who can it be? Who can it be? Who can it be? I'm so confused. Here. the music, man. World Economic Forum. Pretty wild. Well, that makes sense. China now has 6 megacities. Its urban population is set to reach 1 billion by 2030. Key year, 2030, right? China is sort of the laboratory too, in a way. You can also see similar iterations of this working system being rolled out in places like Israel. Once again, that's an uncomfortable truth. But you can see Benjamin Netanyahu himself saying that Israel was actually, how do I say that? I'm just going to say it. Pfizer's laboratory. I mean, shit, Benjamin Netanyahu said it. That's objective truth in the sense that he said it, right? And the data shows that. Guys, the dopest data on COVID, and especially the regiment of you-know-whats, was great coming out of Israel. I'm not saying they weren't warped, changed, manipulated with, played with. I'm just not addressing that right now. My point is that the data coming out of Israel was streamlined and good. And always remember, you've probably read articles how it was like ahead of the curve. It was sort of like predictive in the sense of what happens there, we can expect to see perhaps here, right? Those general trends. Well, that's because Israel already has a working digital health ID system, okay? And what Benjamin Netanyahu did, maybe we'll watch the clip. I don't want to misspeak once again, going by the noggin here. Not the biggest brain, but a brain nonetheless. But what I remember him saying was that essentially because we have that system in place already, which we don't, many countries don't. They're very advanced that way. And remember, advanced is always good. Progress is always good, never bad, things like that. They were able to like centralize that data or work with that data that other entities, other working systems, countries were not able to do. And that's why they were able to get that data. But even though Israel doesn't have like a ton of megacities, what I'm trying to say is that type of system, that digital identification, proof of personhood across all aspects and sectors of life, especially digitally, and then merging all of that, centralizing all of that, is the general trend. And we see various minor, I don't want to say minor, but like they seem minor to everybody, these consequences, the results of this working system. You see it with the social credit score in China. Some say it's overblown, it's not nearly as bad as the conspiracy theorists or whatever say, but it is kind of creepy. Everyone's sort of, there's a consensus there, even among the mainstream. But social credit is a consequence of the same system that allows Pfizer to use Israel as a laboratory, according to a former leader of Israel, or current. Sorry, I don't keep up with the politics over there. You know what I mean? So megacities plays into this wider operation, this wider agenda where taking all of everything I just told you, that grid-like system where every single movement is tracked real time, already allows us to do that with the iPhone. But smart cities are going to be the creation of a hive mind, because people living together in one small area tend to think along similar lines, especially politically. Think of New York City. I've said it before. They always vote Democrat, right? And whatever, I'm not commenting on the left versus right nonsense. And a lot of the rural, smaller communities of the country tend to be a little bit more conservative, right? And cities have this problem of providing, giving, weaving the illusion that there's a consensus there. You're immersed in so many people that this has to be the majority consensus on this particular thought. And then the people that live in these cities look at how the other cities and their citizens vote, and they vote the same way. And it's like, yeah, I mean, look at you know what I'm saying? I can just see how for like a layman that isn't really involved might fall for the idea that, wow, everyone around me believes this must be a massive cross-section of the rest of society, therefore it's majority. So you're a hive mind in such a way that you think the same way, you're reliant on the functions of the city, trains, buses, taxis, public transportation. Everything is monitored in the cities, the city, especially New York City, is laid out in a literal grid system for convenience and organization. Yeah, it does make it easy, but you're quite literally building yourself into a circuit board. And now that we have the tools for mass behavioral modification, and some of you might be thinking, the ones that stumbled here accidentally, I don't even know if that's allowed to happen algorithmically anymore. But if you're thinking that sounds crazy, it really isn't. It just really isn't, right? When you can track everybody in real time, you see what they're doing at all times. Everyone's driving Teslas, which have 360-degree cameras, maybe sprinkle a little smart dust over there. So you've got live time heat maps of every sidewalk in the city, access to every single CCTV camera. You've got gunshot microphones for crime stopping programs that really just pick up everything in the vicinity, right? Now put these on every other light post across the entire city. You've got full spectrum total dominance when it decides to work against you, but you've got an ultimate sustainable living and convenient living situation when it works for you, right? Traffic lights are changed based on live time GPS traffic data from iPhones. If it measures that there's very sparse traffic, it'll change the street light cycle from red to green to yellow faster than if it were very busy. It would suggest improvements to the various entities involved with zoning and construction permits, like and changes building new stuff in the city, the smart city, by realizing that there's heavy foot traffic and kind of like a jam up on this particular sidewalk. The smart city AI literally sends a notice saying, consider expanding this sidewalk. Data, real-time data has been suggesting that, it's just too thin for current population levels. I'm not making this up. That was listed as a genuine result of a capability that these smart cities can do. That's a hive mind. You're on a grid now, guys. And they want that because that allows them to track every single person at all times in real time. And when you have that on a population-wide scale, my personal belief is that you can then develop predictive capabilities and predictive technology, which, by the way, so these same sometimes sketchy people that are behind all of this, you see it with like people like Ehud Barak, former prime minister of the laboratory, Israel, involved in this predictive technology in the guise of crime, in the guise of preventing crime, terrorism. Brain waves, transparency, the reading of brain waves to determine whether you're agitated. We'll pull you aside, make sure you're good. Mandatory calm down session. They'll pull you into a side room at the airport, throw on some porn for you for about 5 minutes. Your heart rate will be monitored by some of the sensors in the room, your brain waves. As soon as they resume normalcy, the airport will know because they've got sensors for those too. Off you go. Off you go now. We know you're not a terrorist anymore. Yeah, mission accomplished. We know you're not a terrorist anymore. Your brain waves moved from alpha state to theta state. Now just stay in theta state forever, if you would, please. I think it's theta state. The TV doesn't put me in theta state, it puts you in theta state, not me. I'm going to jump back to the mega cities in a bit, then I'll get in the comments. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. 52 watching. Good turnout. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Be sure to hit the thumbs up for me. Help grow the channel. Consider following me on Rockfin. We're live on Rockfin too. Rockfin.tv/memoryhold. Just pulling up another clip. Give me another minute if you would. I want to do some housekeeping. I got to do it, guys. It's hard out here. The digital landscape sucks, man. So I have to consistently remind people of where I'm at, I know it's annoying. Just pulling this up for you. Trust me. You will be happy that I did. Okay, let's pull up 2 different videos here. One is 30 minutes. I don't feel like scrubbing through it, but this other one's 4 minutes, and I don't know if it features the clips that I want. All right, guys, before I do this, hit the Linktree link and bookmark it. It's in the description of every single video I do, if you follow me on social media.
First off, a video.
Oh, yeah, I knew that would happen. It's also on the social media if you follow me there. All of that is in the Linktree. I'll show you what I'm talking about. And why you should make your life easier. Just keep this. Look, all my links in one space. You see it? All that. If you keep this handy, you'll never lose track of me. If I get kicked off YouTube, I will replace this link at the top with the new YouTube channel. If it wasn't obvious enough already, if you simply search for Memory Hold 6.0, God forbid that happens, that is precisely what my name was going to be. But nonetheless, I put everything here easily available for you. And also at the bottom, my documentaries and also my podcast appearances. It's not an exhaustive list, but it is for my documentaries and stuff, but you get what I'm saying. So guys, keep that handy. You know, I work on the description so you have access to the resources and things yourself. You know where to find me. I have to put my email in there for like business inquiries and collaboration ideas and stuff. Very lastly, I've been putting up articles over on my Substack. Consider subscribing over there to the newsletter on Substack. A little bit about what that is it'll one day serve for, you know, my essays. I do want to get back to writing. I used to write more than I used to do videos, but videos kind of took over. But this point is I'll be doing that. But in the meantime, I've been posting up my archives. Very extensive stuff. I put the scripts up. So New World Terrorists, I put that video out the other day. It's up on Patreon, Rockfin. This is the full script for that, more like an essay. This is the book summary, Scientific Impact, or rather Impact of Science on Society, Bertrand Russell. That's another Rockfin Patreon exclusive. So what I want to do is equip you with the tools that you need to acquire the knowledge that I try my best to share here on this channel. And of course, the type of knowledge that we share among each other in the comments section and in Telegram and things like that. So I think that does it. Yeah, Rockfin is the big one, bitshoot.com. Don't forget the archives to my old stuff, guys. I got like nearly 100 videos over on Odyssey, Memory Hold 2.0 and 3.0, full backups. And I post alternate media on Instagram and TikTok. So stuff that I don't post here. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see shortened clips of what I do, or just clips that have never been released. You know what I mean? I'm trying to hit 10K over on Instagram, so help me out there. Been doing good, man. Not getting banned. All right, so we understand. We understand the significance of where Memory Hold is at in this horrible digital landscape, this Orwellian landscape. So now that we do, let's resume. Let's get back down to business. Talk about hive minds. We're talking about megacities. Talk about brainwave scanners. We're talking about Ehud Barak. We're talking about laboratories in Israel. I mean, Israel's being a laboratory. We're talking about farmers getting shut down. We're talking about derailments, chemicals in the sky, foxes keeling over, dying. We're talking about cancer spikes 10 years from now. We're talking about it's safe to drink the water. It's safe and effective. Whoops, you have cancer. We're talking about that type of stuff. Okay? Where the fuck did this video go? There. I'm a little scared, if I'm being honest.
First off, a video. It's going to make you see the future and understand a wonderful future where we can use brainwaves to fight crime, be more productive, and find love. Let's roll.
Good.
Sensing your joy, your playlist shifts to your favorite song, sending chills up your spine as the music begins to play. You glance at the program running in the background on your computer screen and notice a now familiar sight that appears whenever you're overloaded with pleasure. Your theta brainwave activity.
I told you, you're in theta wave. I'm watching my favorite porn. I'm in theta wave. You tapped me in my theta wave brain because they showed me some porn. A personalized AI assistant will chime in. Memory hold. I'm seeing that your brainwave suggests you've shifted into theta state and might be agitated. Is there anything I can do for you? No, I think I'm good. I'm about to head out. I just want to go to Twitter one last time. Hi, Memory Hold. I'm sorry, but due to your brainwave state, I'm going to have to restrict your access to Twitter for 10 hours. Okay. Can it be like 5 though? Because that way I can check it before bed. You know, it's fucking crazy. Sorry, can't take that route. You're an electric vehicle and you reach your carbon output cap for the week, bucko. Sorry, can't take the scenic route. I know you got a day off. It's the first nice day. Sorry about that. You got to be more responsible. You're pooping out kids. You're spitting up into the atmosphere. You got to be more responsible. Sorry, can't take you to the scenic route. I'll drive you back to your home. Self-driving, override, engaged. Manual overdrive, can't do it. Sorry. That's the future. So is this.
Increasing in the temporal regions of your brain. You mentally move the cursor to the left, and scroll through your brain data over the past few hours.
Uh-huh.
You can see your stress levels rising
Uh-huh.
as the deadline to finish your memo approached, causing a peak in your beta brainwave activity right before an alert popped up, telling you to take a brain break.
Ah.
Your mind starts.
See, okay, so let's just gloss over whether or not you'll be able to X out of that. If, like, you see a prompt pop up that says you got brain overload.
Before an alert
You got data is fucking you're raping your brain. You got a brain overload.
popped up, telling you.
Brain break required. Let's just gloss over the required part. Let's just gloss over the required part. I got an idea. Let's make it so I'm trying to, okay, I'm a big CEO. I'm trying to figure out more ways to make work even more unpleasurable than it already is, but simultaneously increase the rate in which it's demanding. I need it unpleasurable and I need it demanding. So what's going to happen is we'll initiate brain breaks. Number one, we'll measure the brain waves at all times. If anyone shifts into an alpha state instead of a theta state, we understand they're, you know, fucking around. They're on Twitter, they're on their phones, they're goofing off. So we dispatch a drone from the HR team. Melissa, you okay? Your brain waves shifting into alpha. What are you doing? Now, if you shift into alpha state, they'll say, okay, look, you know, maximum 3 minutes in alpha state. You break that threshold, you go over, even by a second, that's when they dispatch them drones out. Them corporate drones. Hey, Melissa, you okay? What happened? You shifted into alpha state. You okay? Something happened? Something happened? And don't even get me started on what it's going to be like over time, cumulatively. Memory hold, look, we like you. You do great work. But, you know, the amount of time you've spent in alpha state is honestly inexcusable. What's going on, buddy? I mean, it's been a month. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. That's the future. Brain break required. Let's gloss over that. Required? I'm cool with that.
You to take a brain break.
Sorry, sir. Can't get in here. You're in a theta state. Might be dangerous. You're white. Might have an AR too. Gotta get out of here. Sorry. Leave. I'll call the police. I'll call the police. I'll call the police right now. Maybe the police actually already know about you. Maybe they're all already on their way and nobody called them because they use predictive technology too. You guys heard that? Yep. Yep. See, this is the type of shit that we should be red-pilling anti-police people with in the wake of like George Floyd and stuff. Check this out if I can pull it up. There's a technology being utilized by certain police agencies across the country that is predictive policing technology. This is real. I'm not saying it's anything new. There's been various attempts at predictive policing, some technological attempts, others maybe just systems of actions to take certain protocol tweaks, right? But there was a recent controversy that was really scary when you watched it. It was basically like gang stalking, to be honest. It was probably the closest thing that like came to gang stalking in reality that wasn't schizophrenia, you know. Here, let's pull this up. Check this out. Got 2 clips queued up. If the one isn't good enough, let's see what they have to say about this shit. It's the trend of the future. Once again, just building off the idea of hive minds, megacities, and the implications of like the level of data they have on us. If we all live together, it's very easy to introduce stimuli that then changes the trajectory of like a particular social or governmental action, because you've got like the cumulative history of data on this person and know how they'll react to things.
Roll call. Santa Cruz Police Department. The calm before the storm.
Kids coming around. Take a look at the map, please. I appreciate it.
Our crime stats are showing the efforts that you guys are making, and overall, year to date right now, we're down 12% on overall crime.
As the men and women of day shift lock, load, and hit the road, they are armed with an entirely new type of law enforcement weapon.
All right, where are we going?
The ability to predict where
Sorry, I don't know. I might have kept that thumbnail up. I'm sorry if I did. They're just showing mad, super flashy cinematic shots of officers and stuff like that.
crime is going to occur. We rolled out with them to see how it works.
Oh, and by the way, it's interesting to know, I think this video is like 7 years old. Is this the one that's 7 years old? One of these two. Yeah, okay, so this was uploaded 7 years ago, guys. Notice how this looks like a super flashy, cool promoting type thing of predictive policing tech. But note that in recent years, it's actually got controversy to it, and people don't like the idea. So we'll see an interesting contrast here when we watch this video, which was just uploaded 7 months ago, okay?
So downstairs here, this is where we house the operations division of the police department.
Deputy Chief Steve Clark is a 20-year veteran of the Santa Cruz Police Department. He knows the place inside and out. He also knows where it needs to go in the future, a knowledge that led him to an innovative predictive policing software called PredPol.
At that time, we were just focusing on burglaries, vehicle burglaries, as well as stolen cars. And we found that the model was just incredibly accurate at predicting the times and locations where these crimes were likely to occur.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, it's not at all surprising. This would have been a little bit more surprising 7 years ago, of course, but the advent of ChatGPT and things, the average individual is getting a glimpse of just how easy that would be for AI technology and technologies that are, you know, similar to it that might utilize collective population data given over by things like this, you know, and various other means, crime rate statistics, things like that, and combine that, centralize it. That's the word of the day, guys. That is the theme that underlies every single thing. Like everything that's happening today is the centralization of data. Everyone has their own unique independent world digitally built for them, algorithmically fueled, right? Based on previous clicks, it nurtures you with an echo chamber like perception of the world where everyone agrees with you, but you aren't aware that it's just a bubble, right? That's for you. This idea is the echo chamber is just a played out idea. We all know about the echo chamber. It's no big deal, blah, blah, blah. It's like an elementary take on technology. Not really, not really. It's actually extremely consequential, important enough that, let's fucking think about it, in the SPARS pandemic scenario that was run by major, trans-governmental organizations, John Hopkins, it was a very big thing, right? Big names, big entities were involved in it. That one of the primary hypothetical scenarios that a pandemic, which took place from 2025 to 2030 or whatever, took place was in a digital world where echo chambers have fragmented society. So that whatever echo chambers, yeah, you might hear, everybody knows it, it's not anything new, dude. Yeah, well, it's important, man, because when you have everybody in their own fucking world individually crafted for them, that changes everything, everything. And the SPARS pandemic, of course, was coming from the other side of the spectrum, the side that we're kind of skeptical about, kind of sketchy, kind of predictive and weird. So you can tell that the echo chamber is important to them. How do we disseminate fact checks on time in a crisis situation if everybody is nestled in these echo chambers? We know that the reality, really, from the data is that echo chambers actually benefit the overall agenda. False consensus. When you're not in a city, they got to reach you somehow. They got to make it look like the world believes in what you believe in somehow. You're not in the city, so we can't do it that way. So algorithmically, we'll just promote the information of the current thing. The thing you need to know, the authoritative sources, right? So anyway, let's continue. Maybe just 2 more minutes of this.
At that point, we realized we've got something here.
At first, it sounds a bit like Minority Report, the Tom Cruise movie in which a futuristic police unit apprehends criminals based on spooky pre-knowledge.
All the computer takes into effect is actual incidents that have occurred and have been reported. It really doesn't know anything about the demographics of individuals who live in that area, what the economic statuses of these individuals are, or anything about the person. It's all area specific.
All right, let's, I want to go ahead and check. Let's go look 7 years later. Let's flash forward 7 years later. Now, it's important to remember, I don't know if this video is referring to the exact same software technology that they're referencing here. We're talking about just the overarching idea of predictive policing. 7 years ago seems to be a pretty favorable thing, right? So it was kind of promoted in this flashy little 7-minute video on Al Jazeera. Of course, you have to take into account biases. Maybe they have one. I'm not aware of it because I don't really watch them. So 7 years later, we have a general attitude like this.
Right now, someone, somewhere could be giving you a score. A number that estimates how likely you are to break the law, which tells police if they should zero in on you, and which could forever change your life and the lives of those around you.
It destroyed everything.
And this someone might not be a human being, but a computer.
So how do machines try to predict crime? And is it okay to do that? From DW, this is Techtopia. And in this episode, we're investigating how police use technology to predict where crimes will take place and who will commit them.
We hear from officials about why they use the systems. From experts who issue dire warnings.
They do embed a lot of historical discrimination.
And we explain how the programs attempt to forecast the future.
And if that sounds like science fiction to you, well, listen to this.
I feel like I just got a stamp on my head with "he's a criminal, watch out."
This is Damien. When he was 14 years old, software flagged him to local police as a future criminal.
So I committed a street robbery, and the reason I was put on the list was that I committed another one on my probation. My name is Damien Sarju, and I live in Amsterdam. I was hanging with the wrong people, but...
Kenneth over on YouTube had a good point. Yeah, exactly, Kenneth. That's it, precisely the impression I'm trying to give everybody right now. What'd you say? Oh, let me turn the volume on my phone down. My bad. Yeah, feels like we're watching real-time consequences of the echo chamber for the last few years. Most can't swallow this much truth. Yeah, that's exactly it. We're seeing the consequences. We're seeing come to fruition the willing giving over of our data, the mindless acquisition and introduction of new technology into our, not our lives, but our daily lives. We've gone so far as to use them to supplant many things that we would ordinarily benefit from in any other world that wasn't as cushy as this. Things like directions, right? Without a GPS, without this, without Google Maps, Apple Maps, you wouldn't be able to get to where you need to go, navigate a city. You read signs. That's an ancient skill set, right? How to navigate using just the highway signs, street signs. Memory is also going to be a real issue moving into the future, as we require the use of our memory muscle, so to speak, less and less. For example, birthdays, tasks, daily tasks that you have to do, calendar schedules, right? You've got an appointment on this date, you've got this date, next month we have this, meetings, the blah, blah, blah. All that's digitized. You're automatically reminded when it comes up. You can technologically make your life completely devoid of anything that would require you to access your memory, essentially, because it tells you what you need, right? In terms of your birthday, you forget, nobody really learns each other's birthdays anymore. You add them on Facebook, and Facebook makes sure to tell you, right? So it causes an issue where if you were to actually have to recall what their birthday is without using Facebook, you're going to struggle with it. And I don't know if I'm the only one, but I've actually felt that, man. Like myself have felt direct effects from technology. And it's my own fault because doing what I do requires me to be on this a lot. It's a trade-off, right? You need to be on there a lot to really tap in and understand what's going on intimately. And I really find that beneficial for my own personal life. But it comes with the downside that your attention span suffers, right? So you actually, for me personally, I've noticed a dramatic reduction in my attention span, right? It's very difficult to hold my attention. Obviously I can read stuff, but it's just not as focused. I find my mind drifting more frequently. There's just more going on. Overstimulated, I think, to a degree. All of us. But let's see what the next one is. Yeah, so that's megacities, guys. I kind of started a rant on that. But I think it's really important to understand. All of this came from the Ohio derailment idea. This ongoing attack, it seems, on farmland agriculture, whether it's buying swaths of it by corporations that definitely aren't going to treat it well, probably, to industrial disasters, right? eggs burning down to the ground. We saw stories like that. Remember last year, they say nothing shady going on, but you know, all those fires, what was the, it was some type of food centers that were burning down all summer, basically. And they said, no, nothing to see here. It's not a conspiracy. And in fairness, that's true. I mean, we can't prove it, right? But it's, like I said, a general trend, whether we like it or not. And it fits right in with, you know, someone definitely serves to benefit from these things happening. Raise the prices here. People find it difficult to live there, right? So yeah, that whole conversation came from the Ohio train derailment. What's going on over there? We've got the Ohio train derailment. We've got these objects being shot down. We have strange statements being made by Senator John Kennedy. He said, lock your doors at the end of a press conference. When he came out of that, media reporters were asking him for details about the nature of the fourth object they just shot down, which seems to be the most different than the other objects that are mostly balloons. So to say lock your doors, I personally came to the conclusion that it must be just maybe like an off-color old man joke that just didn't make whatever. But it also seemed like a sensitive enough situation because people are getting pissed, dude. Senators are starting to get pissed. They're like, we need more transparency from Biden administration. Are we in danger or not? Like I said at the beginning of this, is this something really small and trivial being blown out of proportion? If so, who, by, and why? Or is this something huge that's happening that we need to be worried about? That's being suppressed, right? Nobody knows. And that's what Senator John Kennedy said. He said, we are unified in our confusion. But then after that 4-minute questioning, he says, lock your doors after all of that. It's like, is that something responsible that a senator might say in front of his constituents, to lock your fucking doors after we shot down 4 objects? The fourth one, they just mysteriously haven't recovered. They recovered all the others, but not that one. That one was the cylindrical one that they allegedly say they couldn't really see any definable means of propulsion or what kept it up in the air. This is the detail that has the UFO and UAP crowd freaking out. So now you've got the blue beam psyop thing being clinged onto truthers and conspiracy theorists. Then they jump over to the Ohio train derailment and say that is what's distracting from blue beam, or blue beam is distracting from the derailment. That's the big one. Or blue beam is distracting from the Jeffrey Epstein files, the newly unsealed ones, which, by the way, there is no client list. There is no Epstein client list, guys. I'm telling you this right now. There is, people reference the client list. There's none. I don't know of any official client list that is rumored to exist. I imagine he kept extensive records. Remember his blue book or black book, his flight logs. So there's extensive records. I'm sure there's more. But a client list, when they say they released the client list, there is none. If they did, they destroyed it. And if there is such a thing, the closest that gets to such a thing is a compilation of many separate records. For instance, those little sticky notes that was used to schedule, that were left by Ghislaine Maxwell and Jean-Luc Brunel. Remember the sticky note I showed you guys from Brunel, where he said, hey, Epstein, just want to let you know, LC squared was taken. Gonna file MC squared for the LLC instead, or whatever. He was talking about creating MC squared. Oh shit, got the horns going off. You guys hear that? Shit's going down. Chemical spill, right near Memory Hold in New York. Another chemical spill. Fifth chemical spill of the week, right by Memory Hold. Uh-oh. Having a hard time living nowadays. So, point is, guys. Point is, there's been so many happenings in the past week. It's hard to keep up with. My dog is howling. That's fucking adorable. His name is Rooster. He's a little dog. He looks like a rat. He looks like a fucking rat. Can you hear him? He's a little rat dog. He's handsome, but he looks like a rat. So we got MSU shooting. All the victims are students. Suspect is ID'd. Last I checked, looks like we're still looking for a motive. Not sure what the motive is. I don't know. There's so many happenings. Is this the guy who lost his mom a few years ago and lost his marbles or something like that? I don't know. Is that the same guy or is that another shooting? Let's see. There's a press conference held right now. There's a live stream of the vigil where the public, I think it's open to the public. We'll tune into that real quick to see if that's still live. So let's get a basic rundown here. Press conference.
Law enforcement, including the Michigan State University Police, the Michigan State Police, the FBI, all of our local agencies, first responders, local departments, and officers as far away as Oakland County for their efforts last night. I also want to thank the incredible medical professionals at Sparrow who are working hard to care for those injured, as well as all the community members that shared tips so that our law enforcement could act. We mourn the loss of beautiful souls today and pray for those who are continuing to fight for their lives. Every Spartan student, parent, and staff member should know that Michiganders and Americans everywhere are thinking of you today. President Biden and I spoke last night. He pledged his support and the thoughts of an entire nation, and we will work together to do what is necessary to help MSU community heal. We're all broken by an all too familiar feeling. Another place that is supposed to be about community and togetherness, shattered by bullets and blood.
Remember guys, if you would please hit the thumbs up for me, like this video, share this video, and if you're new, please consider subscribing to the channel. Help me grow the channel, helps a lot. Follow me over on Substack, sign up for my newsletter.
At a dance hall, and a few months past a shooting at a...
We've got body cam footage, 2019 body cam footage of the alleged shooter. In this video, he says that he's armed. If I remember correctly, there might even be some question about how he's able to possess this legally. We'll double check that. I rarely pay attention to shootings anymore. There's too many of them. It's kind of lame.
Listen to the newsroom, police body cam footage showing an encounter that Lansing police had with the suspected gunman from 2019.
7 investigator Heather Catallo joins us now with a look at what this video reveals. Heather.
We just got this video a short time ago. This is from the night Anthony McRae was arrested for a felony gun charge. And in this video, he admits he knew he shouldn't be carrying the gun outside of the home.
You got any weapons on you right now? Huh? You got any weapons on you or anything like that?
Thank you, Gorilla. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you hanging out with me right now. Hope you're enjoying. Hope you're enjoying. Comfy sesh. Comfy but informative sesh.
Yeah. You have a weapon on you?
Yeah.
What do you have?
380.
380? Go ahead and put your hands behind your back real quick. I'm just going to detain you for a second, okay? Can you put your cigarette out?
This body cam video shows a Lansing police officer questioning Anthony Dwayne McRae back in June of 2019. Police say McRae gunned down 8 Michigan State University students Monday night.
That's awful. I just want to chime in real quick and say that JC Rastafari on YouTube said, oh, P.S. the train company, I'm assuming from the train Ohio derailment, P.S. train company owned by BlackRock, Vanguard, and JP Morgan. So I don't know if I remember, I heard some references to that general idea, like the ownership of certain entities involved in that. So we'll double check that. If I remember, we'll go through that. But I just want to let you guys know, for those that missed it in the chat, in case I forget, look it up. So that's could be important to know, right?
Seal carry permit?
I'm working on it.
The officer arrested McRae after he admitted he was carrying a weapon without a concealed carry permit.
I live right down the street, man.
So right here?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it your registered firearm?
Yeah, registered. Yeah.
Okay.
Once he's in the scout car, McRae reveals where he got the Ruger 380 gun.
Where'd you buy it at?
The pawn shop right there.
Yeah, well, yeah, the pawn shop?
Yeah.
Okay. How long ago did you buy it?
Okay.
I brought that
That's what they were talking about. Some legal question about how he got it.
at the end of March.
End of March? How much did you buy it for?
Oh, but then again, I don't know. Maybe I'm just confused. You know, disregard that. I don't know. Put it off to the side. Maybe the question was like, how did he get a gun to do this shooting in 2023 if he was arrested on a gun charge in 2019? Maybe something like that. I don't know.
214.
You know you don't got a permit for it?
No, but I'm working on it. I was working on getting my
Did you know that you needed a permit to carry that 380?
Yeah, man. Yeah, but it's late. I'm going to the store.
Yeah.
And
why were you carrying it?
Protection.
Protection.
Protection, man. I just get a pack of cigarettes, come here, smoke, turn my head, bring my little gun with me. I know I ain't supposed to.
I don't even necessarily doubt that that's not true either. I mean, who knows, right? But then again, it is a guy that just went on and was able to kill 8 innocent people with, I don't know if it's that same gun, whatever, you know. So whether it was actually for protection or whether he just carries it because, you know, the thought of killing somebody gets him off and maybe tonight's the night. Dexter Morgan. I don't know. I don't fucking know, dude. Shootings galore, but wait till you see this, though, guys. This was dropped to my Telegram last night, I believe. That's where I first heard about it. Sorry, I can't remember the person that did it, but a survivor of the SH Connecticut school mass shooting, you know, the one that was definitely real, not FAKED, the one that has that trial ongoing with Alex Jones right now, because Alex Jones said that it didn't exist, there's no deaths and stuff, that school. Well, one of the survivors of this shooting was a student, I guess it's at SH, Sandy Hook. Shannon Watts made this tweet. A survivor of the Sandy Hook school mass shooting in 2012 is a student at Michigan State University. So this makes the second mass shooting where this was the case. I forget the details of it. Everybody in the chat, do you guys remember the details? The first one that involved a survivor of a previous shooting, it was at like a bar or a restaurant. Would you mind putting in the chat what the name of that shooting was? I can look it up, but I'm afraid my poor computer isn't good enough to handle any more tabs, and I'm scared. I don't want my stream to crash.
So the reason I'm making this video right now is because it is almost 1 a.m. and I am currently directly across the street from where the shootings at Michigan State occurred.
Sorry.
I am 21 years old, and this is the second mass shooting that I have now lived through. 10 years and 2 months ago, I survived the Sandy Hook shooting. And when I was crouched in the corner in school in Newtown, Connecticut on 12/14/12, I was hunched in the corner with my classmates for so long that I actually got a PTSD fracture in my L4 and L5 in my right lower back. I now have a full-blown PTSD fracture that flares up anytime I am in a stressful situation or anything occurs that's aggressive.
Oh, guys, by the way, just remember that I believe that YouTube takes into consideration the chat as well. So just if you don't mind looking out for me on that, just I'm not saying this because I saw anything. I'm just remembering, with especially this topic, just be mindful in the chat, all right? Don't do anything that might get my channel flagged, please. Let's be cool. Just be cool, man. Just be cool. We're still on YouTube right now. Not like it really matters. I just don't feel like getting banned again and making a new channel. Like, whether you like it or not, man, the people that need to see this are not using Rockfin. They're not using BitChute, unfortunately, even though those are great platforms, and you should be on them. But, you know, it just is reality. And the sole purpose of this entire Memory Hold project is really to reach across the aisle. I know a lot of you are been with me for a while, but, like, you know, the objective has been achieved over time, right? I still get messages every once in a while just talking about that. I didn't believe in any of this shit, but dude, my friend sent me your video, and that's awesome, because that's what happened to me, and that's what I want to do. So I gotta be on YouTube. I'm sorry. Luckily, I don't self-censor very much. I'm good enough at formulating these videos to, other than like little code words, but I make the code words obvious, you know. That school in Connecticut, boy, I wonder which one. Anyway.
Like that. The fact that this is the second mass shooting that I have now lived through is incomprehensible. My heart goes out to all the families and the friends of the victims of this Michigan State shooting. But we can no longer just provide love and prayers. It needs to be legislation. It needs to be action. It's not okay. We can no longer allow this to happen. We can no longer be complacent. I'll forever be Sandy Hook strong.
I just want to, this is all awful, right? And I want to remind everybody that, number one, let's not all pretend we actually know for certain what happened to anything. In any of these shootings, any of these mass casualty incidents, it's really a general, it's really more research into the general degrees in which there's inconsistencies, right? Some have more inconsistencies than others. Some evoke basic questions. For example, a tinfoil hat QAnon tard might say, wow, why doesn't the FBI have any mortality statistics about the Aurora, Colorado theater shooting or the Sandy Hook shooting? That must mean they're fake. And then they get laughed at in the media. 5 reasons why the Aurora, Colorado mass shooting and Sandy Hook conspirators think that whatever, it's fake. Well, it's because the reality is that the FBI actually didn't feature those crime statistics on their website, whether you like that or not. So what I'm saying is that's maybe not an inconsistency, but that's something that people might have a question about. You log on a publicly available government-affiliated website that, all the rates of death per capita per year, right? So total number of deaths broken down into categories: suicides, homicides, overdose, whatever, accidental, natural causes, general demographic dispersion, age. And within that data set is the actual cases. Except for Aurora and the theater shooting or Sandy Hook. So people ask questions. But I'd like to remind you, and I've always been a proponent of this, guys, I'm not a big fan of the crisis actor idea. Yes, they exist. Hear me out. Hear me out. Don't jump on me yet. Hear me out. What I'm saying is that theory, those theories, that things are totally fake, a total play. I'm not saying they're impossible. I'm not saying they're incapable of doing something like that. What I'm saying is, like, when have you ever seen them try so hard to avoid killing us? Like, why wouldn't they just want to put an actual crock pot bomb there and revel in the visuals of, like, just blood pouring through the sidewalk, missing legs, things like that? Like, why only then would they not want to instill absolute terror in that community, fear in the rest of the country, while taking out a few, people, plebs, chickens, right? It's more complex than that, memory hold. They served a benefit by faking it due to X, Y, and Z. The argument continues, but I just don't see it. Because just kill them, just do it. That way you don't have to, you serve to, all it takes is one thing that can unravel the whole thing, right? In a way. Obviously, they try to suppress that. But what I'm saying, you run the risk of somebody stumbling on, maybe, this gigantic conspiracy, when in reality, it's easier to actually cause the damage you say happened, but maybe you're the one that built the crock pot bomb, or maybe you're the one that did the pew-pew, not a kid named Adam, right? See, now even that is pretty outlandish. But again, not impossible. It's not like they don't have the capabilities if they were evil enough to do such a thing. So what I'm saying is that, like, we can think on the idea of whether something is entirely fabricated. And trust me, I'm well versed on the Connecticut school data and evidence. I got the infographics, I got the fucking files, I've got the rare Lanzas, I got plenty of rare Lanzas. Yep, I got the trunk footage. I got the DNA report. Lanza's DNA in question on the weapon. I got the brother's Facebook post. It's not me. I'm not the shooter. I promise. I know Lanza had a psychiatrist. I got the archives of Adam Lanza's recently discovered YouTube channel. So, well versed in it. I just don't know. I think those people lose their legs. I think there was a crockpot bomb, and then I think what they do afterwards, the lies, the narrative spins, all that, is the real purpose. Because fear like that, when you program fear into someone that just witnessed a bomb go off and wipe out the people in front of them because you signed up for a marathon, fear like that can never be replicated unless you detonate a fucking bomb under someone's feet. I'm sorry. Someone watching a TV about the story and seeing those images will be shocked nonetheless, but in a different way than watching legs and fly through the air. Right? So, I don't know. But this is strange because do the statistics of school shootings and mass casualty incidents really align with the probability of now 2 incidents of people, of victims being in another mass shooting? Most of the world goes through their day without ever being in a situation where a gun is even fired, let alone a mass shooting, let alone one in school, let alone experiencing it twice. Now, since it's only happened twice, it's clearly anomalous. But even those anomalies, like, do the current rates of shootings in schools really even make it possible for, like, how specific an anomaly? Like, that's a crazy one, right? I mean, that's fucking wild. Yeah, there's a lot of shootings. Don't get me wrong, something needs to change. And by the way, it's absolutely fucking stupid that these shootings are happening and the calls for gun bans are happening right alongside peer-reviewed studies saying average kids ages 12 and 15 are more miserable than ever. Why could that be? What could the effects and consequences be? What do we do to stop it? Then a kid picks up a gun, walks into a preschool. We got to ban the guns. It's the guns problem. It's guns problem. Yeah, guns kill. Raising rates of depression, suicide, and all sorts of gender-bending confusion. What are we going to do about it? This peer-reviewed study says everyone's miserable and it's only getting worse. Shooting happens. What could there be to blame other than the tool this person used to do it? Right? So anyway, that's the age we're living in. We're living in the age of U-Haul trucks running over bikers. Live vigil. I think that's, I don't know if that's over, but now we got some derailment stuff.
And turning now to the aftermath of the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Local residents are reluctant to accept advice from officials, saying that it's safe to return home 12 days after the accident. People are complaining about health issues. Lilia Luciano has more.
I would be alert and concerned, but I think I would probably be back in my house.
That was Ohio Governor Mike DeWine's answer when he was asked whether he would move back home if he lived in East Palestine, Ohio, though he did offer caveats.
I think that I would be drinking the bottled water.
There have been numerous reports in recent days of respiratory issues, burning eyes, and dead wildlife, including at least 3,500 confirmed dead fish killed by contamination.
We don't have any evidence of non-aquatic species suffering from the derailment.
5 of the train cars were
All right. So I forget who sent it to me, but someone either in a YouTube comment or was it the Telegram or somewhere, maybe Instagram, they said, or maybe it was a post, I don't fucking know. I must have read it late last night and I was in CP boy mode, you know, so I can't remember it. But either way, they said something about like, okay, so 5 train cars were carrying vinyl chloride, but someone looked at the picture, like the one on your screen, where you can see all these train cars, and they said something about evidence showing that way more than 5 train cars were cut into for the controlled release. Because remember, that's what happened. This is what they say, they were fearful of a cataclysmic explosion that would send chemicals in the sky. And I guess there was something way worse about the explosion and the results of the chemicals in the air, rather than just releasing it in a controlled manner ourselves. So either way, it's going in the sky. Either way, you're releasing the same amount, but I don't know, maybe an explosion, according to them, is more unpredictable as to, you know, it might go further west, when in reality, if we do a controlled release, it'll only go one direction instead of west, northwest, southwest, like an explosion, right? I'm just making this up, and I just want to let you know that one of the viewers, or maybe a post online, said that if you look at these pictures, you can actually see evidence that there's more than 5 train cars carrying this. In other words, they were hinting that perhaps they are underplaying what type of chemicals are being reported, just how bad, you know, the amount is. It's far more. I can't prove that. I can't confirm that. We have seen some tendency to underplay this story, though. The immediate media coverage right after the derailment wasn't exactly, we had enough information right off the bat after the news came out that this could have very large consequences, very bad consequences, big implications, especially for the people in the immediate area. Yet we didn't really see the media coverage that matched that level of concern that the average person actually seemed to experience right off the bat, right? I did. This is big, right? Even if it's limited to a small regional area of community, it's still good to know that you just don't want to shit the planet up, right? Where are the environmental people, the climate change activists on this? Like, why isn't this trending in their world, right? It's kind of interesting. And we've already seen them say, oh, sorry, I covered this in my last video. It's only on Rockfin and BitChute now because I don't know how sensitive this story is going to get. That it was actually 5 chemicals detected on scene of the derailment instead of the 3 that they initially said were there, the 3 being bad enough already. And they said, yes, those 5 chemicals are still, they seeped into some parts of the water, they did this or did that, and they are headed in your direction. I forget what town this news clip was coming from, but it was nearby. And they just said, but the additional 2 chemicals are not the dangerous ones, and the chemicals coming your way are not the same ones in the trains. I'm like, okay, so either way, chemicals are coming. Chemicals are coming, baby, but they're not bad. All right, fess them up. I'll take chemicals, you know, as long as they're not bad. I'll take them, yeah. It's good. You got chemicals coming your way, but they're not bad chemicals. So that's just the price of living in a region that's being bought out or destroyed or burned down. You know, so I don't know, it could be I just thought that was interesting. They use nanothermite to cut into these fucking containers. We also know, covered in the last video, that the axle of the wheel, this train was already burning due to that 20 miles before the site. Why didn't it slow down? Are we dealing with a failure in detectors, instrumentation, and sensors that would have warned the conductors, holy shit, we're exceeding the heat levels. We should probably stop at the slightest detection of heat because we've got these explosive and highly deadly chemicals on board. Every precaution should be made. At least you'd think so, but the train kept going for 20 miles. Like I said earlier, unless, of course, it takes 20 miles for a train to brake and slow down, but I don't think that's the case. So, you know, we'll have to see how this plays out, but we've seen evidence of some cover-up, minor cover-up, some fuckery. It could be way worse than they let on. I mean, we're seeing evidence of that. The fact that they say it's safe for them to return, but livestock and animals are still dying, I think that's sketchy. I think that's irresponsible. I think that the media and the powers that be that are behind this, the sheriff's department, these people, instead of saving face, they should straight up say, look, if I were you, they want me to say it's safe, but I don't know if it is. I'm an officer. I don't know. I don't fucking even know how to read the graphs of air quality levels. But I'm going to tell you to come back and it's safe. Because why? We don't want panic. See, we don't want panic, but you're okay with potential death down the line as long as it doesn't affect you now. Is this an act of self-preservation? Hey guys, come on back. We're all good. We're all good. Let the gas out 5 minutes ago. It's all the way up there. Gonna stay up there. Not anywhere here. Your house was 100 feet away from the railway. You're safe to come back. Sorry to hear about your dog, Precious. I heard that he passed away. How old was he? 11? 12? Sorry to hear that. Unrelated from the derailment. Come on back. Come back home. School's got to reopen. School's got to reopen. They're already closed long enough because of COVID. Got to reopen those schools. Come on back. Bring your children back. Where's your kids? Where's your kids? You didn't bring them back to the derailment site? Safe. Safe now.
Carrying vinyl chloride, a highly combustible chemical linked to a higher risk of some kinds of cancers. Crews conducted a controlled release of the carcinogen to reduce the risk of an explosion.
When you have combustion or burning, you create all sorts of different byproducts. It's important to understand to cast a wide net when you're testing, because you want to narrow out and rule out chemicals that could pose an acute health risk or linger around.
I will say, guys, if I can find it, I'll make a community post or something, but you could probably find it yourself. There's publicly available websites where you can measure air quality data. I don't know how close to real time it is. I think a lot of it is real time, close to it. You can look up your area. So if you're within a certain region from that derailment site, I think somebody in Telegram said that, you know, they're closer to it, certainly more than I am over here in New York. But if you're in the Western Pennsylvania, you know, just measure your air quality. So long as the website that's publicly available allows access to like as real time as you can get. I think you can, though. If I could find that one website, it was pretty good. I looked at the air quality over in East Palestine, and they clearly transcended the WHO, World Health Organization guidelines, which I suppose serves as sort of like the baseline of accepted air quality particulates. This was way over that, and it was multiple different separate chemicals or stuff in the air that they were measuring. Every single one like exceeded the baseline, the WHO baseline. So you can do the same in your region, because the thing is that there is this thing, it's called wind. And what happens is when particulates go up into the sky from controlled releases, we're just going to let that gas up there, gotta do it. Don't want it to go boom. We do want it to go up, just not boom. So we're going to let that gas out. What happens is there's this thing called wind. That wind blows it. Okay, so if you live and it goes into the ground, it ruins the soil, ruins the water, kills the fish. If you live near a river that's flowing south from this area, could be worth being on the lookout. Right now, the fact checkers are shutting these ideas down. How we're blowing certain aspects of how far this has literally, specifically, there's a fact check I just saw before the show. Fact checking whether or not the toxins are in the river further south, right? And sure, yeah, maybe they won't ever make it there. Maybe they'll dissolve or whatever by the time, before they even get there. So the fact is, yeah, the fact checkers say, all right, it is true, right? I don't think there might be any effects down there yet. The issue is, obviously, if there were, they probably wouldn't tell us, at least not right away. Remember, safe to come back. Where's your daughter? She's not going to school tomorrow? School's reopening again. Kind of time to come back. Sorry to hear about your dog. Dang, I can't believe Lil Precious, the golden retriever, just died of natural causes right after that derailment. Sorry to hear that. Come on back. So that's the issue. It's point is that, yeah, fact checkers, they might be correct on this. They might say we're wrong about certain things, but at the same time, I think it's always worthy to be be extra cautious, right? Who cares if they say that it's not there yet, or if it will ever reach you? Prepare. There's nothing shameful about doing that.
The governor and
the dangers today aren't immediately visible. Dangers today are invisible. Like, we're up against soft weapons now. These aren't loud weapons. There's not going to be a bomb that goes off. There's not going to be some clear indication of danger when it happens. If you were to be shot and killed in a mass casualty incident, there would be no indication that that's about to happen until you turn a corner, enter the juice aisle, and some dweeb in 8th grade has an AR in front of you, right? There's a synthetic virus that leaks out. You're not going to smell it, feel it, hear it, see it. You're just going to get sick, and hopefully it just doesn't kill you, right? Like, that's the reality of today. So if you're going to make fun of me for being cautious, for looking at wind maps, hey, let's see how far this fucker can blow, then I'm sorry. I just feel bad for you, right? Like, how are you going to judge someone for being cautious, right?
Other officials
blown this out of proportion, dude. Yeah.
Lifted the town's evacuation order a week ago after health officials said air quality was back to acceptable levels and the city's main water supply, they said, was safe. 2 days after the evacuation order was lifted, the EPA said 3 additional hazardous chemicals were found on the derailed train cars.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, DB over on YouTube said, apparently it's got the highest concentration of the Amish in that area of, like, around East Palestine. The people, who wouldn't get the you-know-what. And the fact remains, whether that's true or not, it's more likely to be true that indeed there is a large Amish population there. I have to fact check that. Now, does it mean that the derailment was done on purpose to attack them? No. But there's a large Amish population there, more than likely. I'm sure there's more than a kernel of truth in that. But it, once again, fits back into that trend that I told you about. The ongoing attack on self-sustainability. Whether this was done on purpose or not, you could see that the benefits are clear to a certain party. More people forced to cut off their self-sustainable living plan and instead rely on whatever, elements of the state, whether it be for food, for power, for electricity, if we're talking about the Amish or whatever. And of course, being forced to live that way is also a dropping of, like, religion and cultural practices and norms, especially for people like the Amish that dress way different than us, that horse and buggy type stuff. Can't do that in the city, but if there's no other way to sustain yourself outside of the city, well, we get rid of the Amish and we therefore eradicate just another holdover of old world traditions, which include self-sustainability and communal living, at least non-city living.
This train apparently was not considered a high hazardous material train.
Yesterday, Governor
What?
DeWine revealed that since only 20 of the 150 cars contained
Apparently
found on the derailed, 3 additional hazardous chemicals were found on the derailed train cars.
This train apparently was not considered a high hazardous material train.
Okay, so they mentioned what I referenced and what I covered here on the channel. There was 2 additional chemicals that were found, making a total of 5. But it wasn't designated a hazardous material train. So does he mean that the cars, the containers or whatever, that those extra chemicals they discovered, or does he mean that those containers specifically were the ones not deemed hazardous? Because remember the other story where I said, yeah, the guy said the chemicals are coming this way, but those aren't the bad ones or whatever? Is that why it wasn't deemed hazardous? Or did he mean the entire train wasn't deemed? He said train. Because that's kind of weird. Why wouldn't they designate a train carrying the most deadly chemicals known to man hazardous, right? Because I mean that's kind of a basic thing. They always do.
Evacuation order was lifted. The EPA said 3 additional hazardous chemicals were found on the derailed train cars.
This train apparently was not considered a high hazardous material train.
He said this train. That's crazy. What does that mean? What are the implications of that? Why wouldn't it be designated that? What's the difference between trains designated that way and trains not designated that way? Do trains that are designated as carrying hazardous material, are they specifically made to transfer hazardous material? Are they designed with certain precautions and safety technologies on board to mitigate potential disaster, being as they carry deadly chemicals? For example, what would happen if you designated a hazardous material train as not being hazardous? What if, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if there are differences physically in terms of the safety taken and the protocols between a train designated hazardous versus a train not designated hazardous, could we have been lacking one of those safety equipment things? I don't know, a sensor, an instrument, because of this I don't get it. I don't know, maybe that doesn't make sense. But why, point is, it's so simple. Why wouldn't you designate it? There must be something I'm missing here. We're going off just a 2-second clip. I'd look into that if I were you guys. If I remember, I might do it before bed tonight. That's weird if that's true. So 20 miles away, it started burning. What is that indicative of? Unaware conductors and staff? Could they be unaware? Or were they aware, they just didn't think it was bad enough to stop immediately? Which begs the question, why keep going if you know you're going to have to stop eventually? Unless the designation of hazardous materials has the consequence of perhaps the conductors didn't know they were transferring such a dangerous, noxious load of chemicals. Therefore, they didn't feel the immediate urgency to stop the train as soon as they detected heat 20 miles outside town. I'm thinking out loud, stream of consciousness. I don't know, maybe these are questions worth asking, or maybe I'm just tired from a day of work. You know? Let's click around.
That eventually reaching drinking water supplies. Not overnight. It takes a while for chemicals to move in the environment, but certainly there is that possibility. What could happen first in terms of contamination is private wells that are in the area, because it seems that the public water supplies are a bit farther away from where the spill occurred. But I would be very concerned about this myself, particularly if I had my own well. And I don't think there's any harm done in using bottled water. A lot of people drink bottled water anyway.
But what about, taking a bath?
I even want to use bottled water for occurred. So I don't think we'll ever know what the levels were in the critical few hours right after the incident occurred. But we do know that once a fire has burned out, once an incident has finished, we don't expect chemicals like vinyl chloride nor particulates to linger in the air. The problem is that during that initial period, even before there was much monitoring and before people left the area, because it is difficult to get people to evacuate right away after an incident like this, there probably are people who were breathing, whether it was smoke or particles or.
It reminds me of the guy yelling at the clouds, like if that was truly those chemical clouds, as he said. I mean, get the fuck out of there, dude. I understand you're upset. Trust me. Trust me, I'm right there with you. I'm not even there and I'm upset. But don't stand underneath them and yell at them. Please, dude. Get the fuck out of there, man. What are you doing there? Appreciate the footage, but look out for yourself, man.
Even possibly chemicals in the air. And I think there's probably going to be the need for some kind of a medical check to make sure that they didn't suffer any lung damage from that. Or the other thing that I've seen happen is damage to the eyes from things that are in the smoke. Like if, for example, if there were acids that were released, as they did report that they did have at the time of the fire.
Really quickly, Doctor, no surprise, already a federal lawsuit has been filed by a couple of residents in the area. They want, ongoing health monitoring and related services for, to deal with the effects, not just immediate, but perhaps long-term effects. Can you talk to us about what federal protections are in place that already...
That might not be a bad idea. I'm not aware of what federal protections they have in place for things like this, but I think it's only fair. Let's pretend if this was a natural incident, like it was an accident, truly no bad intentions, anything like that. And by the way, guys, I don't necessarily think, like when I'm covering this story, I don't think this was done on purpose necessarily. So I don't want to give you the wrong impression. What we're monitoring here on the channel is the tactics in which they communicate this to the public in terms of information dissemination to something that is scary, especially for residents. You don't want to panic people. So we like to see that sort of a practice in not like psyops, but social engineering, the craft of releasing information in a strategic way in order to neutralize a particular like reaction from arising. It's an art, and we monitor that craft, that art on this channel. So I don't necessarily believe this was a derailment on purpose. I do believe that obviously it benefits, probably positive, to a lot of these like elites, being as all of its consequences of this environmental disaster play into the wider agenda, destruction of farmlands, things like that, the attack on the food system, which is part, in my opinion, all the data suggests this part of the ongoing centralization of the food system, the attempts to put a restriction on meat, eat the bugs, right? Eat the bugs. That general saying, eat the bugs, being an umbrella phrase for like just generally all these other synthetic type foods, right? Fake meat, synthetic foods. So the way this is going to play out, guys, is it's going to trickle its way into schools. What's going to happen is it's probably going to be adopted as part of a food program. Like they're running a lot of stories about how there's a lot of student lunch debt across the country, right? In other words, student lunches cost money, but a lot of the kids, by increasing numbers, are unable to afford lunch anymore, meaning the economy is in rough shape. People are suffering pretty hard. So if kids aren't eating in increasing numbers, perhaps an easy way, an affordable way to fix that would be to introduce like various synthetic methods to sneak your synthetic meat, your synthetic food into the wider system to condition people to sort of either like it or accept it as normal. So I imagine you might see like Thursdays or vegetarian days in school, right? So that eliminates the usage of meat in public schools by a day and instills in them the value of a vegan diet, which plays into the wider agenda of we got to get meat out of the picture, which conveniently, a lot of sustenance given from that big brain stuff, gonna grow a big old brain because I'm an ancient man and I eat meat, and meat is nourishing and it makes my brain grow and evolve. Got to get rid of that. So that's likely how it will happen, right? It's got to be a lookout for us. They got to be looking out for us. Nobody likes synthetic shit, especially food. Even the vegans, when a new meat comes out like that, like vegan meat, the whole video isn't about how great the vegan meat, the synthetic fake vegan meat is, but just naturally. It's about, wow, I'm so surprised this doesn't taste nearly as shitty as you might think it does. So even they acknowledge that, like, wow, we're lucky we have this, but we needed advanced technology to make it taste even remotely acceptable. So they have to get it in as like, we're feeding kids that are poor. We're helping kids who can't afford lunch. I'm just spitballing here. And this all makes sense because this is a part of restricting consumption, okay? We read that report. It's not a joke. It's not like just made up. It's not a conspiracy theory. The Club of Rome's report, growth within limits. What they need to do is restrict the amount of consumption that everybody has on an individual level. We need to restrict that. We need to make more of less, okay? That is what's happening. They've separated the Earth into 9 independent planetary boundaries. One of the things standing in the way of this like greater centralization is the centralization of the food system. If you control the food, you control everyone, just as much as you control, like if you control currency, right? Doesn't matter about the laws, you control everyone that way. So food, currency, and of course the power grids. Those are like 3, there's probably more, but 3. Those are the 3 primary things. Like if you can capture ideologically or otherwise, like those 3 things, you have complete comprehensive control, full spectrum dominance on a population. And so in order to restrict the growth due to population, and population is exploding, we don't have the resources to keep up with this population explosion, they say, so we need to find creative ways that don't infringe on people's liberties and freedoms. So this is why they don't come out and say, yeah, we have to ban meat because of climate change. They have to be more creative. They have to do it in a way that makes us accept it. They have to socially engineer us into accepting it, okay? What better way to do it other than play on the heartstrings? Look at all this shit. Look at all this literal shit in this in the water in Mumbai. And people feel, oh my God, I feel so bad for the people in Mumbai. So they adopt like some bullshit over here because of that. Because it's tugging on your heartstrings, right? Data and statistics explaining, no, that's not a good idea to adopt those. I know it sucks for the people in Mumbai and the shit piss in their water, but that is not a good idea. That's not a good idea the way they're handling that. I know you feel bad. I feel bad too, but the stats just don't support the success rate and doesn't justify us doing that too. They don't think like that. They feel bad. Oh, the poor people in Mumbai. Those poor refugees. We're drone bombing them. They gotta leave their homes. Let's let them live with me. I took a refugee in because my daughter's in 8th grade. And she needed to be exposed to the wider world. I'm a naive piece of shit. I exposed my daughter to a refugee. It's a win. It's a win-win. My daughter's getting more worldly, more cultural. I got Samar from Syria here. We drone bombed his house. He was caught up in that big wedding strike, the one that destroyed that wedding. Is there anything else? Fuck, man, I've been going a while. I wanted to demonstrate, I think, an important topic, whether we like it or not, guys. AI is here to stay, and it's going to increasingly become part of our daily lives. I don't want to sit here and hash out the whole deepfake thing, the whole general updates as to where we're at. We know where we're at. ChatGPT is the big talk of the day. Everyone's been talking about it. It's been a big scandal too, especially deepfakes and AI art, right? What's happening right now is a perfect depiction of AI outpacing democratic ideals, outpacing our ability to restrict it. For example, there's no real way for a college to regulate or prepare like plagiarism that is done. Like ChatGPT can write entire essays, very elaborate. Now it's not going to write like 30-page essays, but if you just keep prompting it, it's actually quite good. And the more alarming, actually it's not alarming, it's just surprising. We know it's regulated. We also know it's cocked, right? We also know that it's basically just an authoritative mouthpiece, right? It's not going to tell you things about, it's just going to say it's a baseless conspiracy theory. That's it. Like it's never going to, okay? So with that said, okay, just know that I already know that, guys. We all do, okay? That's why I didn't even mention it. We all know it. However, what I was surprised to see about its release that I did not expect was I've eliminated like a good 40 to 50% of my search engine use through this. Like, what I'm saying is, being as it's here, whether you like it or not, I think it would be a good idea if you haven't used ChatGPT yet. It might be a good idea to acquaint yourself with it because, like I said, we might not like the amount of data that's collected on us, but one of the trade-offs is we do have to use these services that we sort of rally against if we want to gain the knowledge that we so deeply desire, right? That we so badly want to learn. So the point is that, yeah, you might not like ChatGPT, it might freak you out, but it might be a good idea to become acquainted with it. Just give me one sec. So my plan, maybe I'll save this for another video. It's been a long time here. It's like an hour and a half, hour 40 minutes. Yeah, actually, I think I'm going to cut it here, but just throw that one in the bank for now, keep it aside. I might come out with a video like just teaching people the basics, like how to use ChatGPT, since it's here to stay anyway, how to use it to enrich your life, right? Like it's actually very fast, it's very efficient at gaining just basic information. For example, the impact of science on society, since I just made a breakdown and summary about it available for supporters on Patreon or Auction, but since it was fresh in my mind and I knew the book and just summarized it myself, I wanted to test ChatGPT's knowledge on it. So what I did was I took ChatGPT's capabilities, took into consideration my own preferred way of learning, right? Meaning like, can you use bullet points and things like that to explain the most important elements of that book? And ChatGPT broke it down perfectly. And since I read the book myself, I could tell that ChatGPT was right. Now, that isn't to say that they can't be wrong. They can't be deceptive. They can't hold back information. For example, I gave that example with Marc Dutroux because I knew Marc Dutroux said he worked for the government, right? So, but knowing ChatGPT's regulations, that's a baseless conspiracy theory. It's the repeated phrase even it used, no different than mainstream media. I wanted to see if it would be truthful and say that. So I said, who else did Marc Dutroux work with? Are there any influential? I worded it something like that. Now, you'd think that if Marc Dutroux himself, a huge public figure that took the country by storm, right? So everyone knows him. If Marc Dutroux himself said that he was a tool for a wider group, including the Belgian government in this predator ring, you would think that that would be one of the first answers to provide when you ask, did he work with anyone else? Because holy shit, that's a big revelation there for him to say. But ChatGPT didn't do that. She said he worked alone, basically. And then I said, but ChatGPT, isn't it well known and publicly available that Marc Dutroux said himself that he worked as a tool on behalf of the government? And ChatGPT said, yes, actually, I'm sorry, my mistake, that is true. Marc Dutroux did indeed say it, and it's like, ah. So if you learn the tactics, the ways to craft the prompts, you can actually use ChatGPT to be very powerful, very effective. I mean, it writes scripts, you can write a documentary with the shit. It has invented a new way of learning, actually, right? So instead of going to Wikipedia, like manually typing in, if you want to learn about what's transhumanism, you type into Google or DuckDuckGo, what is transhumanism? You scan for the best sites. Maybe you click the Wikipedia, put that in one tab because you're going to need that anyway. Let's look for some other sites. Okay, here's a forum, here's a Reddit post. Okay, you know, that's generally how we Google search. But with ChatGPT, all you do is log on. And if you were to just ask, can you explain to me what transhumanism is? What are its basic tenets? And what is the current status of the transhumanist movement as it stands today? And just watch what it says. So it saves you the time of finding these different websites. The data seems to be universally considered to be accurate. Aside from the regulations and the censorship, okay? We know that, like I said, we already know that. But to combat that, you have to learn how to give it the correct prompt. So what I'm saying, guys, is maybe I might do a video how to really use this. You guys can figure it out for yourself too, but if you're like me, I wasn't really that interested in trying it. I heard the hype. I'm like, I get it. AI, dude, I get it. But the chat kept going, and I'm like, okay, fine, fuck, I caved. What is this ChatGPT stuff? And now that I've actually used it, I can really see how it can become beneficial on like a day-to-day basis for acquiring information. What were the most major seminal moments of 2018? It'll give you a full list of the most important things that happened in 2018. Okay, ChatGPT, can you please write me an essay about each of those seminal moments? And then also, could you please include the general public reaction to each of those seminal moments, important moments? It will do that. It will do that. Let's see. So I got so many tabs open, my computer is kind of like, it's struggling under the weight of all this. Like, I'll see if I can demonstrate like a good way to craft these prompts for you. All right, so I've got a new chat open. So let's pretend that like right now you sat down at your computer to do a Google search about a subject you want to learn about anyway, right? But instead you decide to try ChatGPT for that information anyway, instead of Google. Perhaps you're looking for, let's use the book for as an example, just because like I said, it's freshest in my mind. So what was the book So you just put it in, what was the book Impact of Science on Society by Bertrand Russell about? And right now we're just trying to get an idea. Maybe you heard the name of that book. What's that about? Sounds interesting, but what's the whole thing about? And it gives it to you. It gives you when it was published. The book explores the ways in which scientific and technological advances have influenced society. Increased productivity, increased healthcare. Russell also examines the impact of science on various aspects of life. Politics, education. This is all accurate because I just read the books myself. This is extensive. So right now you could have either navigated for a few minutes looking for the proper pages, good enough pages to get the information, hopped on Wikipedia and got the official resource, or you could use a tool like ChatGPT that will give you an answer based on the collective data set, which is massive, as opposed to just what Wikipedia said. Okay, so that's a pretty good summary. But let's ask it this. What were the most important things about the book? What did Bertrand Russell believe to be, the most important issues? See what it says to that. It's kind of a badly crafted question, but I'm crashing here. So Bertrand Russell's book, it's a complex book that covers a wide range of topics. However, some of the most important parts of the books and problems that Russell, the author, believed were most important include, look at this, the potential for scientific and technological progress to create a rational and just society. Russell believed that the advances in society, or science and tech, had the potential to make life better for everyone. The dangers of allowing scientific progress to be controlled by a small elite. Russell argued that one of the most important problems was the potential for a small group of people to control scientific progress. Science for destructive purposes. So if you recall, one of the really interesting beliefs that Bertrand Russell expands on in his book, which is really educational and good for us, being as he's one of the globalist elites and we need to know what they think about this overpopulation stuff. After all, our world is lurching and changing and turning and transforming in pursuit of combating these things. So we know that overpopulation and eugenics were brought up in the book. Let's narrow the scope. Instead, we summarized the book. We narrowed it down to what ChatGPT says is the most important parts of the book, but now let's really narrow it down. What are Bertrand Russell's thoughts on overpopulation in that book? In the book, what were Bertrand Russell's thoughts on overpopulation? Now you can add an additional prompt, right? You might think that's a good enough question, and it is by itself, sure. But if you narrow the question, the prompt even better, let's prompt it to actually make a bulleted list and make it exhaustive. In the book, what were his thoughts on overpop? Please list them in a bulleted list. Here it is, it's generating. So once again, I understand the pitfalls of AI. I understand that it's a real disruptive tech. I understand that it might end up in, it's the same thing that is responsible for us being pushed into this technological slavery. My point is it's not going anywhere. So at least be able to utilize it for some good along the way. And here it is, a bulleted list. Russell argued that overpop was a serious problem. He believed that the root cause of overpop was a lack of education. Russell suggested that government should take a more active role in promoting family planning. Remember, birth control, contraception. He also believed that reducing population growth would require changes in social attitudes. That's where the Club of Rome and UNESCO comes in. We need and H.G. Wells, Global Revolution in Thought. This is all accurate. I read the book myself. He didn't believe in coercion of force. And what's really cool is you can be informal in the way you ask. So for example, instead of saying, can you also make a bulleted list of whatever, I'm just going to say this. Okay, can you do a bulleted list of eugenics now? Like, I don't have to mention once again that I mean a bulleted list of ideas of eugenics in the book. It already knows that. Russell was critical of eugenics. Now remember, this isn't going to be an exhausted list. So the key thing to remember with ChatGPT, guys, is after it provides you this information, simply prompt it to make more bullets. So after this is done, I'm going to show you. I'm going to say, that's a great list. Can you please add more to the list? And it will do it most times. Good list. Can you please add more to the list? Let's see what it does. It's worked every time I've done it. Yeah, see? So there, that's how it results in like sort of hidden information. There's layers. So if you didn't prompt it again, you would have been left with just those bullet points, thinking that that is all it's able to give you, but it's not. With a follow-up prompt saying, okay, how about more? Reword things, try it again, you become good at the craft of unlocking info at lightning speed far quicker than clicking around the internet might do. Not to mention, on the internet, you might have to read huge blocks of text. You're left at the whim of however the author formatted their work. But here, I just took a book, and instead of him summarizing the whole thing, open, ChatGPT, I decided, do you mind just putting it into bullet points for me? Okay, now zone in and talk about this overpopulation topic within this big book specifically, narrow that down. In half the time or less than I could have learned about it on the internet. Again, it's always going to be subject to regulations. It's always going to be cucked, okay? But even though this is a tool that's helping move along the agenda that doesn't seem like a very fun agenda, it's also the thing that might, make us all jobless one day. The automation of society, the mechanization of man. We are now sufficiently technologically advanced enough to make everyone slaves, drones, a circuit board, But still, use it for your advantage, right? I mean, even the other day, writing my documentary, I said, you know what? Let's plug some prompts into ChatGPT. I took the beginning of a paragraph, and I said, given those prompts, given that data set, could you draft up 2 different possible paragraphs that might fit? And it fucking did it. And it even gave me a detail that I was like, oh yeah, that would probably be a good one to include. It was something I forgot. I'll show you. Can you please write me an essay? Check this out. Can you please write me an essay about the dangers of technology, and especially the Orwellian potential future that arises from centralizing that data? Take into consideration the following things. Take into consideration the following developments. Now, I'll make the bullet list to make it clean and not confuse it, if such a thing is possible, because this shit's crazy. Smart cities. Mega cities. Real-time GPS location tracking. Biometric data. Social media, iPhone data. What else? The Internet of Things. The Internet of Bodies. Surveillance. Please also include the role. You see how complex this prompt is? Surely it can't handle it. Or the answer it'll provide in response will be shitty, right? That's what you would think. It's crazy. Please also include the potential advent of a scientific managerial group of elites, class of elites. and how a scientific dictatorship might be inevitable. Inevitable as a result of it all. Watch this. This is an essay. Take a look. This is what it's generating. Technology, I can't even read it all. Technology has brought numerous benefits to society, but also poses dangers. One of the concerning potential futures is an Orwellian one in which our every move is monitored, tracked, and controlled by centralized authority. This future is becoming increasingly plausible. New developments in technology emerge. Smart cities, megacities, real-time GPS location tracking, everything I listed. Smart cities are cities that use data and tech to improve the quality of life for their citizens. However, they also collect vast amounts of data on people's movements, habits, behaviors. This data can be used to monitor and control people, which poses a significant danger to privacy. Megacities or cities with populations of millions of people are becoming more common. These cities have a high concentration of people. It makes them vulnerable to tracking and unrest and the potential for oppressive government control. Biometric data, real-time tracking can be used to track people's movement and activities. This is crazy, right, guys? The Internet of Things. So right now they're just kind of, it's still a little basic because they're really just defining the prompts I gave them. And then when they list the dangers, they're kind of like cliche dangers. So they might list all these bullet points: social media data, Internet of Things data, smart cities data. But the risk, the dangers of it will always be the same. It might infringe on freedoms. So the follow-up prompt might be, okay, make a bulleted list of all the dangers that might come about, right? It's really interesting. I had it generate some crazy fucking essays, man. If you continue on the prompt, just ask it to rewrite the essay with that new information and it will. We must remain vigilant, it says, and hold those in power accountable for their use of technology, lest we fall prey to a scientific dictatorship. Well, so don't be a victim of AI. Maybe use it to your advantage when you can. This was the first time something like this I can see actually serving a good benefit on a daily level for certain, specific purposes, such as browsing the internet for data and information. Pretty interesting, guys. All right, so I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for hanging out with me. I had a good turnout today. Thank you for your support on Rockfin, especially, and BitChute, rockfin.com/memoryhold. Thank you for all the recent tips and donations, whether it's Rockfin, PayPal, whatever else. You could do that. It's all in the description. But, my PayPal is just, memoryhold. Venmo is just memoryhold. PayPal.me, memoryhold7707. Or you can hit me up on Patreon and Rockfin. $9.99 a month on Rockfin gets all my premium content as well as everybody else's. Patreon, as little as $1 a month, you can subscribe and you'll unlock my premium videos. I have more coming now that they added that feature I'm so hyped about, direct video upload. That's the only thing in the past that stopped me from doing it more often. You also get crazy documents and access to resources that that isn't just free to use. Most of my work is free though, like 90%. But, people decide to tip me, and I feel bad if I don't also, reciprocate, But it isn't about the money, guys. Share this video. If you're new, please subscribe. Help grow the channel. Times are tough, man. Times are tough. I got real close to making this something, and, the first bandwave got me. So we want more people here. We want to build the community, okay? And, yeah, that's about it, guys. Appreciate you hanging out. I will see you next time.
Coming through hot with the fire, ignite the night, ignite. Coming through hot with the fire, ignite the night, ignite the night. Coming through hot with the fire, ignite the night, ignite the night. Hot with the fire, ignite the night, ignite the night, ignite the night, ignite the night, ignite the night.